Are you ready to rewind? Take a nostalgia-filled ride back to a simpler time. It's Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. And now your hosts, Joe Murata and Michael Quinn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 88 of Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. Today we're talking about some Nickelodeon game shows. My name is Joe Murata, and my other contestant here is Michael Quinn. How you doing there, Michael?
Nick. It's so fun.
It is fun, yeah. You know what, folks? This is a retro pop culture celebration, right? And how do you get more retro pop culture-y than Nickelodeon game shows?
Nickelodeon, like anything, I feel like.
Yeah,
right? It's
that's
like
true.
Anything Nickelodeon, it just equals fun to me.
I think it equals fun for a lot of people, and we hope that this show equals fun for you. We do appreciate you being with us here. Whether you're a first-timer or a long-timer, you can follow us on Twitter, or X if you prefer, at AWM Podcast, and you can also join our very friendly, non-judgmental, vaunted even, yes, Facebook group, which is creatively titled Acid Wash Memories on Facebook. It's very clever
good.
title.
So good.
I love the title of that group.
It's as fun as Nickelodeon, though.
That's the thing, Quinn. A lot of people are probably ready for this one. I'm going to state out of the gate here, we are not here to talk about literally every single game show that ever aired on Nickelodeon.
Yes.
And nor are we going to give you a detailed history of every game show that we talk about.
We're probably going to stick in our lane, our era.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that era for us is really the early 90s with a little like leak over from late 80s, things that were still being replayed or like our first memories.
Or sometimes they were even still having new seasons like into the 90s.
Correct. Yeah. Stuff like that.
Double Dare, the game show for kids only. Weekdays only on Nickelodeon.
If you are not interested in this and you happen to like the sound of our voices, well, that'd be very strange. But if you want to listen to more retro pop culture goodness, we do have 87 episodes available, Quinn.
In the archives.
Amongst those episodes, we talked about Nick at Night. That was actually, I think, episode 2 or something like that.
It's like but it is the first instance of Nickelodeon popping up in this Acid Wash Memories canon.
Absolutely is. We talked about the whole history of it. And over the course of doing this, we've talked about cable TV and how Nickelodeon was an early adopter in that regard.
Nickelodeon's always just kind of hanging around.
Just kind of hanging around.
It's kind of this presence in the 90s, right? It's there, and you know about it, and it's the place to have fun if you're a kid, right?
Absolutely. And if you were a kid, most of the people listening to our show, from what I've gathered over the years, are in their, the 30s, 40s, and a lot
Usually we get younger people.
We do. We get people younger than us. But if you were born in the either late 70s through like sometime in the 90s, and maybe even beyond, you just had Nickelodeon on TV as a part of your life.
It was an option. Yes.
And for a lot of people, they took that option.
Yeah.
Don't go away. Nickelodeon will be right back.
To briefly recap the history of Nickelodeon, by brief, I mean like 3 sentences, okay? Because again, a full detailed history is available in the archives.
Hey, I don't say archives like that. No. Do you own or rent your home?
But it was the QB cable system, which was the first interactive cable channel that was test marketed in Ohio in 1977. And that C3 channel on the QB system had a section of programming known as Pinwheel. And in 1989, April to be exact, Pinwheel was renamed Nickelodeon. Okay?
And it was all very Canadian or something.
They did. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So it did struggle for the first couple years, but a Canadian program helped save the day for the fledgling cable channel, and that was You Can't Do That on Television in 1981.
Their sworn mission to make new episodes of You Can't Do That on television.
By 1984, Nickelodeon was operating at a loss of $10 million. But in 1985, they became a full-time 24-hour channel, right? Which we've talked about. Instead
24 hours in quotes.
Yeah, I know. They would still sign off sometimes. But they had been previously sharing the channel space with A&E, and then A&E went to their own channel. But anyway, the nighttime block, Nick at Night, debuted in July of 85, and that was really a boon, if you will.
Yes.
Maybe it buoyed?
It buoyed it. And it allowed them to actually be a 24-hour channel.
Yes. And Quinn, one thing that you and I have gleaned over the course of doing this show, if you want to produce programs to turn a profit, they should be cheap, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And monetarily, what is one thing you can tell me about game shows?
They're cheap.
They're cheap, exactly. So the first Nickelodeon game show, and it's probably the most famous or one of the most famous to come out of Nickelodeon, was Double Dare.
Double Dare, yeah. So two teams of kids generally.
There was later
there was
family
the
Double
family and the other things.
Gorilla Monsoon Double Dare.
Yeah. But basically, two teams compete in a contest of usually first it's like wits, like you have to answer trivia questions,
like
basically
generic trivia.
Yeah, they're not
like
like that
It's
crazy.
not Jeopardy.
But if you're a kid, it's actually difficult because you haven't lived for enough years to accumulate any sort of trivia.
This is true.
So it's actually a challenge.
It is a challenge,
right?
Challenge!
The kids are trying to figure out the questions, and then you can like dare them if you don't know it, right?
Yep.
And then they could double dare you. And then the last like bastion of this shit is like physical challenge, which is it's basically like the equivalent of like, you know, in like medieval times when people would have like I challenge you to a trial by combat.
Yeah,
like,
or the glove slap, of course.
This is the children's version where it's essentially, why don't we make you do something like really stupid, and whoever's the best at doing it wins.
It really is a bunch of like frat party tricks and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
It's always like, what? Here's a gigantic thing of ice cream, and we put a flag in it, and whoever the hell finds it first wins. Right?
Pick this giant nose and get a flag, right? Shit like that.
And when you sit down, that pie will go flying over in that direction. And where will it end up? Well, hopefully in your dad's pants.
Double Dare, which I'm going to state on the record, I did like a real lot. Did you? I'm assuming
I loved
you did.
it. And honestly, its theme. It has like
great theme.
The theme that it's like a theme that it opens, and then there's like a physical challenge version of it, and then there's like the obstacle course version of it, which we didn't even mention. The obstacle
there is an
course.
obstacle course at the end. Yeah. We need to talk about the particulars real quick because they come into play a little bit. It debuted in October of '86, so that's pretty early on for a Nickelodeon game show. Because Nickelodeon didn't really, I mean, they had the logo by '84, I think, but they didn't really turn into the Orange Splat and Slime Association until the end of the '80s.
Yes, but I feel like they had a lot. Double Dare was a big contributor to
Correct.
this, right? It's
that
like,
and You Can't Do That on TV were the two big contributors.
Yeah, television, yes.
Yeah, television. Excuse me.
Get it right,
Using
Joe.
the abbreviation. I'm sorry. And it was hosted pretty famously by Mark Summers, who, like most game show hosts, was a former DJ and stand-up comedian, which is just very Ray Combs-esque.
This clearly was like a I need a gig kind of situation for Mark Summers,
exactly
and
what
he
it
just
was.
signed up for it.
And I'll tell you what, he was good at it.
He was very good at it.
Things have gotten somewhat out of hand here between Hacksaw Jim and Mr. Perfect. What gives, guys? Gentlemen, there's only one way to settle this.
You don't mean...
That's right, a super sloppy Hawaiian ring toss.
It's funny because Mark Summers probably hosted this thinking, I'll just be this like one-time thing, and he ended up being like somebody people remembered and like somebody that Nickelodeon kept for like multiple shows for multiple years.
Yep.
He almost was like the host of Nickelodeon in a way.
He was the Regis of Nickelodeon.
Yes,
Glenn,
yes.
Right?
He kind of just became this because they didn't have much, right?
They really didn't. And this was being their first game show. To have a host that, I mean, Double Dare, as a whole, this first run ran until early '93. So it was about almost a 7-year run.
It almost felt like they had Mark Summers was the best they could get, right?
But I'll tell you what, he really, he later did Unwrapped and a bunch of other things, but he really was good at this because, as we've talked about in other game show episodes, like when we talked about Price is Right and Wheel of Fortune, game show host it might seem like a really easy job, but to have that kind of longevity, you really do have to be good at it because you're dealing with unpredictable people and situations.
Right, but it's not even
You're
just...
adhering to a format.
It's not even just that in this particular situation, though, right? You're dealing with kids, which is like extra, like,
One of the first rules of TV is don't work with animals and children.
Right. Is like the thing is like you have to be really on your game because here's the deal. Adults sometimes can like BS in front of the camera even if they're not like camera people or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But like a kid, it's like a deer caught in the headlights
It can
sometimes,
be.
right? And you have to like be good at very calmly like being like, okay, don't be scared, Timmy.
Yeah.
Like say something or whatever.
Or you have to know when to pivot, when to make a joke to like diffuse.
Exactly. Like these are kids. They have no experience with they're not child actors even. They're just kids you picked up off the street, right?
Exactly.
You want to be an astronaut. What made you decide to do that?
I don't know. I just like looking at the stars and studying about them and stuff.
You like flying?
Yeah.
That's good.
Incidentally, I want to mention this for a little trivia. There was a previous game show, not on Nickelodeon, of course, known as Double Dare from 1976 to 77, and its host, Alex Trebek.
What?
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Double Dare. This is a brand new game that has us all very excited. We like it, and we hope you wind up liking it just as much.
Double Dare was a sleeper hit for Nickelodeon, so much so that by 1988 there was also a syndicated version.
Yes, I remember this, and I thought it was weird at the time.
It was weird. This is the one that was revamped into Super Sloppy Double Dare in 89.
Right, yes. And then those episodes started airing on Nickelodeon, which made it more confusing because I was like, what the hell is Super Sloppy? Like, it doesn't even, like, it was, like, not even different.
It was literally the same game. They just made the shit you did messier.
They claim they did.
It didn't
but
really
like,
look it, right?
It all just looked the same to me. Like, as a kid, I'm like, is there, like, a game here that's different? Like, I don't get it.
Right, no.
From the parking lot? What do you mean? I'm down here with everybody else. Because I'm the host. I make a grand entrance.
Wait a minute, I'm the host. You guys are
the host.
You guys
I'm
are
the host.
We're going to find out who's the host after this as Gorilla challenges Bobby the Brain to a cage match.
You got it.
And then the Fox network also picked it up as Family Double Dare in 88.
Now, Family was a totally different thing.
Yes, it
sort
was.
of.
It was like Family Feud Double Dare almost.
Yeah, basically the Double Dare trivia and shit, but each member of the family like takes turns. But this version, I gotta say, there was something more like wholesome about it. It was like fun to see like dad just like get in like some like sloppy situation or mom or whatever like
Gets
on top
slimed.
of mom gets slimed and her hair get messed up, and it had an aura as a kid, and it was always like, man, I wish I could do this with my parents, right? Like,
just throw whipped cream at your dad?
Yeah,
how would that go over?
It looked like fun, right? It looked like amazing, right?
It did look like fun.
Come on, what kid didn't be like, I wish my family could get on Double Dare, right?
Well, the thing is, this is done at Universal in Florida. All these people are tourists,
Yeah,
from
they're
like
all just vacation or whatever.
Iowa and stuff like that, and they're like, I'll do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, why the hell not? Just part of their vacation.
Especially, too, parents looking to do things with their kids. This was almost like a ride in a sense, sort of like where like an interactive
attraction
thing. Oh, you're on a game show with your kids, and then you have memories because it's taped, and they probably give you the tape at the end of it too.
Sure, they get you the tape somehow, right? There was a brief revival in the year 2000. That I just want to mention. Mark Summers is the executive producer. I think he might have appeared once, but he wasn't the host. But as far as Double Dare, it's known for the sloppiness, right? It's known for the pie, the slime. It really did contribute, like you said earlier, to the branding, I guess, of Nickelodeon.
Yeah, but I think we'd be remiss with Double Dare if we didn't mention one more thing, is the obstacle course.
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
So the obstacle course was the grand finale. If you won the competition of the trivia or whatever.
Yeah, blue versus red.
Yeah, you then moved on to the obstacle course. Now, the obstacle course, I'm not going to lie, first of all, the music theme I mentioned, it now like gets super fucking intense.
You love it,
and there's like a guitar solo in it. It's like, and it's so good because like, here's the thing, when I was a kid, for whatever reason, it was just because you have no context of like history or anything.
Yeah.
This felt like the most like important thing to ever occur.
Absolutely.
Like, and that like because it looked like kind of hard to win. Like, right? Because there was always the bullshit obstacle, like the nose where it was like impossible, or the sandwich. Like the
sandwich.
Like the stuff where it was like, wow, this is kind of crap, right? It's like it's just a complete crapshoot if you like find the flag in this thing. There's like, and then there would be other funny things, like you'd be like, why are they having so much trouble with the Sunday slide, or like some of the stuff that was considered easy or whatever. Like, but it was just kind of this like funny thing where you became like familiar with the obstacle course, and then if somebody got like a really good time, it seemed like a miracle or something.
Oh, it was
right?
like the Olympics, Quinn.
Yeah, it was like, wow, they have like 30 seconds left and they won the whole. How? Like, you see some kids like fly through this thing.
It's true.
Some dads just like freaking, like there'd be stuff where you'd have to just jump really far into like slop, and dad just like went like halfway through the damn thing.
It is funny. It felt so huge at the time, when you're 7 years old watching, and you look back and you're like, this is in some cheap ass studio. There's like 140 people there.
It's just a family with their kids.
It's
like
it's
dumb.
nothing. It's probably a lot smaller than it looks on TV.
Yeah.
And if any of you have ever been on Double Dare, we want to hear your stories.
But I like to think that this obstacle course is what led to kind of like Guts and Hidden Temples concept, because this obstacle course thing I feel was like the pull for most kids. Like, this is what they were waiting for every week or whenever the show was on.
Well, it certainly wasn't the trivia.
Yeah, the trivia would be like, is it over yet?
Yes.
Like, when's the obstacle course?
Absolutely.
Right? It seemed like the greatest thing in the world.
Absolutely. I also got to mention like Mark Summers' like assistant, lady Robin Morella, who was always
Robin, who was like sometimes there.
Yeah, she was there for a lot of it.
She was there every show, but only sometimes would be on camera.
Correct.
Remember?
Yeah. So we want to hear what you thought of Double Dare, or Family Double Dare, or Super Sloppy Double Dare, any version of Double Dare.
Yeah.
Did you like Double Double Dare. But keeping in line with the Mark Summers purview, Quinn,
right?
We should mention the August of 91 to November 93 show. What would you do?
What would you do?
Did you like this show?
Loved it.
You did?
Absolutely
okay.
Loved it because, well, first of all, the main attraction of What Would You Do was actually not most of the show, but it was the Pie Pod.
Yeah, the Pie Pod.
Yeah, or Pud, as he would say, Pie Pud.
The Pie Pud.
Yeah.
And the later variations, such as the Pie Coaster, the Pie Slide, the Pie Pendulum, Pie in the Sky, and the Pie Wash.
It was like the grand finale of every show. Like, somebody's going to get in the Pie Pod.
What would you do?
I don't know!
This is, for those unfamiliar, and how could you be, Mark Summers again.
Yeah, so Mark Summers, but this is like in a weird, like, Sally Jesse Raphael environment. Like, it's like really weird. Like the way the thing is laid out, right?
It
like
does
where
look like
there's like an audience, and Mark Summers has a mic, and he just goes around doing like dumb shit with everyone basically for like a half an hour, and then it like escalates to this Pie Pod.
It really is a much looser show than Double Dare.
It's not really a game show.
It is, though.
Sort of.
It is.
Yeah.
But what would the original premise, which I swear I could be making this up, they like kind of veered from after the first season, was that the audience would watch like some dumb crap on TV and then they would vote on what would they do.
Yeah.
But eventually it turned into, like you said, just more bits with audience members doing shit, location shit outside Universal.
On location, and then Robin would sometimes appear again.
She was there. Yeah, she was there for the first season, and she's like, this show is stupid and I'm leaving.
There we go. We're ready to go here on What Would You Do? Now, what's your name, sir?
Brent Rankin.
And Brent, and this your mom?
Yes, sir.
And your name is?
Candy.
Now, do you really get on his back like that, Candy?
Sometimes.
She's a good mom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We have to mention the intro, though.
Yes, the intro, because it always, like, I feel like it was a weird ADD thing for me and Joe growing up.
So there's one clip where, and I don't know why, this footage in the intro, like, none of it has anything to do with the show ever.
And the funniest thing about it is, like, it's in the first season, and because it's, like, the weird flaw in it that we'll describe, you would think they would, like, not put it in the next, but it never went off the intro.
So there's this clip where Mark Summers is, I'm assuming, dressing up like a French painter.
I think he's doing something with paint or art or something, man on the street kind of bit, and he kind of dresses up like a French painter, but then
he's painting a mustache on like a handlebar kind of, but the kind where there's like a gap in the middle.
Yeah, so he paints the one side and it's fine, right?
Looks good.
But then he paints the other side and it's like just like a nub or
like
something.
A nick.
Yeah, and he just leaves it, and it just drive me freaking crazy.
I didn't like it either.
And then I remember me and Joe talking about this one night, and we were like, we couldn't even like believe that both of us like picked up on this, and it was like, oh, like why can't fix it? Like it was so irritating.
The level of neuroses involved. But folks, if you noticed Mark Summers' asymmetrical mustache in What Would You Do? We want to hear about it.
Pissed me off so much. I was always like, could they at least refilm it if they're going to keep using it? Like,
it was very
I can
upsetting.
understand one season, but 3 or whatever after
3.
that? Like,
this show, I gotta admit, I loved it as a kid.
I did too.
It really is a stupid show. Robin Morello was right.
It kind of reminds me, in a weird way, of a kid's version of what's that Drew Carey show where he's
Whose Line?
Whose Line? Yeah, it feels like a kid's version of that.
Yeah, it's not like improv, but I know what you mean.
It's like a loose game, sort of. It's just a bunch of games that are just nonsense.
It's a bunch of bullshit, and then the Pie Pod. Like, literally, it doesn't matter what happens before the Pie Pod.
Yeah,
because you know some jerk is getting into that chair.
And even the Pie Pod seemed lesser or something than the obstacle course on Double Dare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it felt like some like consolation prize for like sitting through this shit, right?
True.
It was like, but it was like also like weirdly memorable because you're like, who the hell would make something like this? It's just stupid.
Bullshit contraption. Rube Goldberg machine here.
Just to throw pies in the face 5 times or whatever.
Remember sometimes one of them wouldn't work or something?
Well, because the way it was very loosely made to the point where it was like, it wasn't accurate on like the side pies. Really only like the center one would generally hit them correctly.
Yes.
Like it was very stupid.
And don't forget there was the, what was it, the crowning achievement or whatever, the thing with the
basically where they just
goo.
drop a bucket of goop on them
slime,
at the end, which they added, by the way. Like originally it was just the Pie Pod, and then they just kept adding shit on it, and then there was like the Pie Slide or
Pie Coaster, all that stuff,
like all that nonsense.
The theme, though, was, people getting, like, sloppy again. Because this is the Nickelodeon brand by 1991. And in that vein, there's another show I want to talk about, which I really, really liked, Wild and Crazy Kids.
I love this show.
Me too.
Welcome to Wild and Crazy Kids, the show that goes anywhere and does anything to find kids having fun.
I really like this show because, first of all, it had like a, hey, we're doing this shit outside seemed like different, right?
It
like,
gave it aesthetically, it looked really cool and different.
Yeah.
Than Sally Jesse's studio and stuff.
It always like something that you could do at school, and I'm
like field day.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I bet you some of my friends and me back when we were kids were trying to do shit that we saw on this show at
sure you were.
At recess or whatever.
I'm sure I was too. This ran from July of 1990 to December of 92. And in this show, teams of kids are doing weird variations of like normal sports and games. Like, for example, one of the famous ones is the Dizzy Bat Home Run Derby.
Dizzy Bat Baseball. That was fun too because they would do the thing where like the parents, the dads would do it.
Yes.
And then it gets like really goofy because like you're like grown men like just like falling on their ass.
Stumbling like assholes.
Yeah.
It was great. There was three-legged soccer, which you can probably infer that the kids are tied together at one leg and they have to play soccer like that. But because Nickelodeon, even though they were outside, or maybe because, there was still a lot of pie and a lot of slime featured frequently.
Now the host, what's the guy with the goofy name?
Okay, so the trio that hosted this show
initially, because there was like a replacement girl or something.
The wonderfully named Donnie Jeffcoat.
Donnie Jeffcoat, that's it.
Someone in my neighborhood was building something in their garage last night.
And also, he's like a surfer dude.
Yeah,
but
he's like
his
the cool guy.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, man, we're gonna do the games today. Like, and it's like, I'm Donnie Jeffcoat. Like, and it's like, what? Like Jeffcoat? That sounds fake.
I know.
That doesn't even sound real.
Made up.
It sounds like he was like trying to hide his name because he wanted to be in like real things and like didn't want anybody to know who he was.
And he was never in anything else that mattered.
Yeah.
That last name, that name in general was a punchline with one of our friends that we used to live with.
Donnie Jeffcoat.
Yeah, Donnie Jeffcoat.
Now, but there was Omar Gooding.
Yes, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s younger brother.
Was it? Was that actually true?
Yeah, it's really true. He's less famous than Cuba.
Now, was Omar... I feel like Omar made it into other Nickelodeon stuff.
He did.
Like, yeah.
He did.
Because I swear I saw him elsewhere.
Omar made it into... I don't have his like complete filmography in front of me, but he did do other things. Like Donnie Jeffcoat, I don't know what the fuck that guy did.
Him.
It was Jeffcoat.
Yeah. He just seems like the dude that's like, I don't know, like
stumbled into this,
drinking on the job or something. Like,
he was
I don't
like
know.
16, Quinn.
Was he? I didn't think he was that young.
Then again,
really, when I was a kid, I thought he was like in his 20s or something.
Well,
like, yeah.
Omar was like 14, but he seemed like
what?
Really? He did.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Hey guys. Oh, Donnie, man, you look horrible.
This you've killed the illusion for me, Joe. I thought these guys were like in their 20s, like they're the adults in the room.
Omar Gooding was born in 76, so like
holy moly.
When the show ended, he was only 15, 16.
That's crazy.
I don't know about Donnie Jeffcoat's age. Let me see if I can get it here. He was born in 75, so yeah, he was like 15, 16.
You're blowing my mind right now.
Sorry.
I had no clue they were that young.
By the way, it's just Don now.
Oh, Don Jeffcoat.
Don Jeffcoat. It's kind of mature here.
Now, who is... So there was the redhead was initially, right?
No. So Annette Chavez for 1990, she's the brunette girl.
Yes. Okay.
And then Jessica Gaines from 91 to 92 was the redhead. That's the version I saw more.
Yeah,
because I
think the first season... who was the first girl?
Annette.
And then the rest of them were Jessica.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, the rest of it. And I think when I started watching it, they were still new.
I must have seen all of them 100 times because they would just replay them endlessly.
Exactly. I was going to say they replayed them constantly. The other thing about the show is special guests would appear, such as JT from Step by Step.
That was very nice of them to bring him in.
DJ from Roseanne.
Yeah.
JTT from Home Improvement. Basically, if you have an initial, you're on the show.
Now, this concept of guests on this show seemed very surprising because here's the thing, is because of the way it was shot outside, it had it looked like it was older because basically the sun's like in the camera's face the whole time. So it like has this like grain over it. Like when I was a kid, I was like, is this from like the early 80s? Like I wasn't sure.
Right.
Like, but it really was just because they were just like, I don't know.
Filming it outside with a beta cam, probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's just filmed like outside in the sun. It's going to look like shit.
Yeah, and
like,
it did.
With a crappy camera, right?
Would it surprise you to know that Mark Summers was a guest on the show one time?
It wouldn't, because like you said, like this is why what was so bizarre about it. It looked cheap, but it would get it would get guests like constantly.
It did. It had a lot of guests. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I like that aspect of it. I really like this show. I think this show is as dumb as the concept is, it's also probably more creative than What Would You Do?
Yeah, I guess so. But also, it's just kind of Field Day, the show.
It is Field Day, the show, right?
But at the same time, I think as a kid going to school in the 90s, do they still do Field Day? You have
they still did Field Day. My son just had it, back in May.
So, like, you could relate to this, right? You're like, oh, this is like if they had Field Day every day. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
right?
with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and slime and pies
and there's
and
like
shit.
celebrities. Like, it's amazing.
And Donnie Jeffcoat.
Well,
folks, if you're cold, put on your Jeff coat. We've talked about 3 of the sloppy style ones, but that's not all Nickelodeon did. They did a bunch of other things. We're going to talk about a few more of the heavy-hitting game shows from the Nickelodeon 90s prime era when more Acid Wash Memories returns.
You can run, but you can't hide because the Double Dare Live Tour is coming. On February 20th in Rochester, New York at the Eastman Theater. On February 21st in Dayton, Ohio at Nutter Center. Nickelodeon is coming to your city and it won't be pretty.
Reach out and slime someone!
The Double Dare Live Tour is brought to you by the First Kids Network, Nickelodeon. Watch out! Wild and Crazy Kids will be right back. Do you sometimes feel like a lefty in a right-handed world? Do you ever want to tell a girl you like her, but lose your nerve? Do you like to daydream, doodle, eat lots of banana pudding? Are you 11 and a half? Have a dog named Pork Chop? Look like this? Well, then you must be Doug. Doug's the new cartoon kid coming to Nickelodeon, so watch for him. World premiere August 11th on Nickelodeon, the only network for Doug.
When Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, suddenly has a craving for his big meat bacon mushroom melt, he'll drive any distance and face any obstacle to get one. Because it's a quarter pound of fresh beef, 3 strips of bacon, and mushrooms in a cheddar cheese sauce, all on a toasted Kaiser bun. Wendy's new bacon mushroom melt.
When you gotta have one, you gotta have one.
Come in and try our bacon mushroom melt today, only at Wendy's.
And now we return to more acid-washed memories.
And welcome back to Acid Wash Memories. Here for episode number 88, we're talking about a handful of the really memorable Nickelodeon game shows. I'm Joe Morata. That's Donnie Jeffcoat. I mean,
Hi.
Michael Quinn.
Yeah, so I have my Jeff coat on.
It's such what a good name.
Yeah, it's heroic.
Talk about Donnie Jeffcoat all you want over at our Facebook group and follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast. Jeffcoat. Again, I'm just disclaiming, we're not mentioning every game show and we're not doing like extreme detail. We're just having fun here. The show ultimately at its core, Quinn, is just about reminiscing, right?
Yeah, that's why it's called Acid Wash Memories. This is the memories one.
Sometimes we delve into history and light history, as you say.
Yeah.
And we do technical things, or we talk about like the history of pants or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
But this is just, which we should one day, but this is just literally a nice, calm episode where we just kind of kick back and talk about old game shows. So we hope you guys like this one. I think it'll be a fun time to keep going here, Quinn. So what we've talked about, the first 3 shows anyway that we mentioned, are all in the let's get like messy and stupid vein,
Messy
right?
and just run around and be kids, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
like nominally the trivia game, right?
Yeah.
but really at its core, it's about like kids having fun.
Basically, what if we put summer camp into a TV show?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
really though, it's what it is. But that they weren't all about the slime and the weird pie activities and things like that. There was also video games. So let's talk about January to November of '92, although it felt like it was on forever because of reruns. Nick Arcade.
Fasten your seatbelts. Here comes Nick Arcade.
As a kid who played video games,
I've heard of them.
This was a dream come true. Like, I was like, oh my God, there's a show about video games. Like, so this is what people need to understand. Okay, if you did not grow up in the 90s, right, there's no YouTube, so you can't, like, find any content about video games at all other than magazines, right?
Yeah.
It's like there really wasn't, like, anything on television about video games.
There was a handful of like shows here and there, but
like Super Mario Brothers Super Show or something. But like about people playing them, that was a different story. There's like nothing about that.
That's true, and
until G4, the video game channel, because I think they realized they saw, hey, a lot of people like that Nick Arcade show, right?
Oh, it's a very memorable show.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember where we are when this started in 1992 is Super Nintendo has already come out. Genesis is still very hot. And even the regular NES is still a big deal.
Now, a lot of this show felt like a promotional device for the two competing consoles at the time.
I don't know that they were, though. I mean, I'm sure they had to get the permission.
It was not exactly... Maybe I misspoke, and it's not about the consoles as much as about whatever game they were promoting, because like they really were like, ActRaiser is good, and stuff like that, like you know, and Sonic the Hedgehog is good.
They loved ActRaiser on that show. Let's talk about it a little bit. So, of course, Universal in Florida, where Disney is, Nickelodeon, and it was hosted by Phil Moore, who was a comedian, a writer, and a game show host. And this is one of the ones that he hosted. Mm-hmm. He was a good host. I thought he was comedic. He was funny. He was good. Likable.
Thank you, Andrea, and welcome to Nick Arcade, the ultimate video challenge. I'm here today with Aaron of the yellow team and Brianne of the red team, who are going to play the face-off game Star Defender. Now, in this game, you have to protect your starship from a deadly comet trying to bombard you.
Much like Double Dare, this is nominally a trivia game show.
Right.
Literally any kid, including myself, that I knew that watched this, all they cared about was the video game related content.
So let's talk about the game for a second. So the game is essentially Mario Party, but with like their invented character, Mikey. Like basically move him to the left or the right.
Or up and down, right?
Up, down, left, right. You have like a map and there's a goal, right?
Yes.
But every time you go to the next tile, on the just like Mario Party, it tells you to do some bullshit. It's like answer this question, or like sometimes it'll just be like traps. Like it'll be like it's like Uno or something, and it's like it's the other guy's turn. You lose. Sorry.
Yep. There's enemies. Pop quiz questions, which are usually real brain ticklers, like what temperature does water freeze at and stuff like that. It really is. And stuff
but
like
it literally is just Mario Party.
It essentially is.
Yeah.
We also need to mention too, the game's show opened with a face-off on specifically made games for Nick Arcade.
There also wasn't one of the Mikey things like go play a video game basically, and that was also what was mixed into it.
But that was the real game. So here's the ones that were made for. I'm just writing down the names for Nick Arcade: Meteoroids, Laser Surgeon, Brainstorm, Battle of the Bands, Star Defenders, Post Haste, Jet Jocks.
These were shit.
And Crater Rangers, they're all bad on purpose.
They're all bad, but the funny part, as a kid, I was like, is there a way to get these games? Like, I was so frustrated.
I've never heard of these.
Yeah. But then, intermix, as if that these Nick games are real, right? They intermix them with ActRaiser, Sonic the Hedgehog.
1 and 2.
1 and 2, and some other ones, right?
They had Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts, yeah.
Battletoads.
Yeah.
Hard shit.
Real games.
Yes.
And basically, they would usually have either you have to hit this score, or you
it was always
score based or something. Mm-hmm. And it was just you just had a brief bit of playing it, and man, oh man, was it I want those games, right? They made you want those games.
They were great at promoting, even if I don't know if that was the intent, but you're probably right.
Aaron, you get to choose from Super R-Type, Gunak, Joe and Mac, Chuck Rock, and King of the Monsters.
You can get a full comprehensive list of all the games online, but as far as the consoles that were represented, obviously both Nintendo consoles, Sega Genesis.
They would also say what the game was being played on.
They did.
I remember it's this is on the Sega Genesis, or this is on the Super Nintendo, right?
They also featured TurboGrafx, and towards the end there, Neo Geo arcade games.
Yeah, that was
featured.
rare.
That was very rare. But the biggest draw was the winner of the game, much like the obstacle course in Double Dare. Mm-hmm. Was the video zone where...
So this was like a child's fantasy or something. This was fascinating to me as a kid, because you get to go in the video game, and I'm like, huh?
All right, we are back, and these two are ready to go and do battle with Scotia. Now, here is your challenge. Player 1 has to collect 3 bunches of bananas sitting high in the jungle trees. The toucans, snakes, piranhas, and coconut-throwing monkeys will take your power away.
they were essentially in front of a green screen, the kids.
Yes.
But they would see themselves. They would have a TV in front of them so they could see themselves, and they have to like move around and like
move your hand,
like
jump.
But it was like motion sensitive or something. Like it would actually like if they pressed a button on the green screen, it would like shoot a laser or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know how they actually did that.
There was like one of them was like a haunted house or something where you had to like stand at the right doors, but again, it's all green screen, so the kids don't see it other than they're seeing themselves on a TV, on a monitor in front of them. But when you're the viewer, it was like, this is crazy, right?
This, when I watched this show at age 7, was the absolute coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I was like, how did they do this? Like you really were like, because again, it's the early days of video games and technology, and people didn't like know about green screens or any of that shit. Idea. Like, and you were just like, how did they like get them in? Like, how are these graphics real? Like, you were like confused.
Yeah,
right?
the graphics were very, very good for their time.
Yeah,
but
the kids are in it.
Yeah, the kid is
look
in the
like
game.
People. Like,
and there were 3 different wizards. Like they were chosen at random. You know, like the wizard you'd have to go defeat or whatever.
Very WMAC Masters, by the way.
It's very much in that vein.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, when I watched this show, I thought that was the future. I thought that life is never going to get better than this.
When do those when you get to be in the game, when does that come to your house?
When do I get one?
When can I do that?
Which Christmas do I get to do this?
Yeah,
you know,
it was really deceptive because it just didn't really explain what it was.
Of course not.
But when you look back at it, you're like, yes, it's just a green screen.
And they're in a green screen room. There's one platform in the room for them to go on.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
but like at home, like again, as a kid, you just have no idea.
No, and that's one of the things. The magic, the magic wasn't out of the bag. No, the magic doesn't go in the bag. The genie wasn't out of the bottle.
Wasn't out of the bottle. Yes.
What goes in the bag? The cat.
The cat. Yes.
It was still in the bag.
In a cradle. Yeah.
In the silver spoon.
Little boy blue and the man in the moon. Ha ha ha.
Anyway, I like Nick Arcade. Folks, let us know what you thought of it. All right, let's talk about another one that is not involving the sloppy. This is more on the physical side of things. Another one that I really loved. It ran from September of 93 to November of 95. So this is a little bit mid-90s getting. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Now this, I remember when it was new. This was one of the ones where it debuted when I was now watching Nickelodeon regularly. And
when I was ingrained.
It's like all hyped. Like they were like, this is going to be the greatest shit ever. There's OMAC and he knows stuff.
Yeah, OMAC.
And this is going to be really serious. It's going to be like Indiana Jones, but you get to be in Indiana Jones, basically.
That really is, I'm glad you mentioned that. It really is the inspiration, is Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom aesthetically and a little bit of what they do. And there is, to a small degree, a little American Gladiator style action in this.
But it's basically, again, American Gladiators, but Indiana Jones theme, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So the whole concept really was that the kids get to live out the adventure of getting like some ancient treasure, right?
Yes.
And that the whole show is framed in like each part of the game show is like a step to get to the temple, to get an opportunity to get the special object that, by the way, which was fascinating about this show is that every single episode they had written like new lore.
They did.
Like that shit was like crazy to me. Like,
and the host would read it.
Yeah.
The host, by the way,
OMAC would read it.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah. The host, by the way, Kirk Fogg, another great name.
Now that, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I really don't believe that's his name.
It's his name.
Now, you know why that's bullshit to me?
Why?
Fog, hidden temples, and mysticism. That just seems like kind of bullshit.
He's a real guy, Quinn. Kirk Fogg. That's his real.
He didn't change his name to this.
Why would you change your name to Kirk Fogg?
Because you're on Legends of the Hidden Temple, of course.
Shut up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you all, Max. Welcome to the Hidden Temple. The rooms are filled with lost treasures that are protected by mysterious Mayan temple guards.
The team system here. So this is how it started. We'll run down the team names in a second.
There's a lot of teams, dude. This was very ambitious, this show, comparatively to like usually what they did, right?
A lot of kids get on this, and this is like tournament style. So basically in round one, with the step, as you said.
How many teams, though, were initially?
6.
Oh my God. Like that was like way more than any of the other shows.
Yeah. The first step is the moat. only 4 teams advance. So then in round 2, the 4 teams in the Steps of Knowledge. And then only 2 teams advance to round 3, which is the Temple Games. And then the winning team of that goes to the Temple Run. Now, here are the teams that were always run down in the beginning of every episode. The Red Jaguars, the Blue Barracudas, the Green Monkeys, Orange Iguanas, Purple Parrots, and the Silver Snakes.
I was a Purple Parrots fan.
I was a Blue Barracudas or Green Monkeys type of guy.
Now, I thought this was funny because every kid I knew picked a color, and they were just like, I'm always a Purple Parrots supporter. Like that
didn't matter who was on the team, right?
It didn't matter. I get real pissed if we got the bad kids. I'd be like, damn, we didn't get a good one this episode.
And then they get eliminated. You have to cheer for another team.
I'd be so angry if the Blue Barracudas got way better than everyone.
What's your problem with the Barracudas?
Well, just meaning that they weren't the Purple Parrots. Whoever.
Well, who can be? Quinn.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're a Silver Snakes kind of person or a Red Jaguar, let us know.
This was real though. You would go to school and I would ask my friends, "Are you a Purple Parrot supporter?" And they would be like, "No, I'm a Silver Snakes." Okay.
You should still ask people that when you meet them on the street, Quinn.
Yeah.
Are you a Purple Parrot supporter?
Yeah.
What? Get the fuck out of here.
Who the hell are the Purple Parrots?
Who the hell are the Purple Parrots?
But so let's go through the games real quick, real quick.
Yeah.
There was first of all, with the moat.
The moat, yeah.
It was just like a pool, and they just had to you had a crappy raft that you had to try to get on a rope. It was terrible.
That's the best summation, though. Crappy raft.
The thing about it was so crappy that it made it actually challenging because everyone's falling off this thing, and they're like, no, you have to use the raft. You can't swim.
That's right. That was a big point.
It was this is so annoying.
Damn it, Fog.
Yeah. He's like, no, you have to get the raft to the other side. You can't because everyone's just like, why can't we swim? Anyway, so whoever makes it, whatever, right? The most boring part was these trivia questions, but
Steps of Knowledge.
The reason they were difficult is because notably they on the spot are here's the story. And then they're remember all these facts. And they would ask you this really super detailed stuff. And all the kids are like, what?
Yeah.
The whole time.
You had to pay attention.
Yeah. And so then you make it, the Temple games are kind of just obstacle course, but shorter.
Yeah, they're not that bad, right?
Yeah, they're not that bad. And then the Temple was the main event.
The Temple Run, yeah.
So the Temple is kind of like Guts, but kind of in a more rooms. It's not, you're just not climbing a thing. You're just there's routes. Remember?
That's
true.
They
would show optimal, OMAC before would be you could go this way, then go this way. And he was kind of just telling you this is the route that you basically the temple guards won't catch you.
Yes.
But then there's the temple guards, right? So this random fucking bullshit. Everyone hated this.
Yeah.
And there's
I remember it.
Apparently I know there's been books and stuff written about all these Nick games.
Yeah.
And apparently there was moments where these temple guards freaked the shit out of these kids. Because it was scary. They would just
they were scary.
They would pop the fuck in and they would grab you and take you away. And you're what the hell? Did they die? What happened? It was very scary.
This ain't Double Dare no more, Quinn.
And then also there's that fucking room that for some reason, even though it's the easiest thing in the world, that the head on the body,
I know what you mean.
And it's why
putting it together.
Why can't they figure this out?
Because they're under pressure. You got a short amount of time to do this.
I watched this show 300 times. I know how to put it together in my sleep.
You've never done it.
But I've seen it done so
many
times.
Someone get it for Quinn. Someone send it to him, please.
I would always get pissed when they're trying to put the head on the bottom. Everyone knows the head, the thing with the spike in it.
Yes.
Definitely is the head. Come on.
No, I mean I share your sentiments.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
It was so frustrating.
It was come on, that's clearly the fucking head. It sticks into it.
Yeah, you got to put the other 2 pieces first on the bottom or whatever.
You dumbass.
Yeah,
you fucking silver snake.
Yeah.
She opened it. Now she's got to put the monkey together. Which one? Where's she got to find the base? The shrine of the silver monkey, where you got to put the base on, and then put the middle part on, and then jam the head down. She's got 12 seconds. She's gonna have to do a lot of work. Keep going, Regina. You got to move fast.
The show, though.
Mm-hmm.
You like it, or you just watched it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. Like I said, Purple Parrot supporter all the way.
Blue Barracuda over here.
Yeah.
I'm on board. When it was new, like you said, I remember the promos for it, and I remember it debut. I remember Kirk Fogg.
I remember not being a little apprehensive about it because it was this is not one of the shows I watch. And I was like, what is this?
That
and
is true.
It immediately as soon as like OMAC came on, it's like this is the, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I was like, and he's like telling like spooky stories like and stuff, and I'm like, this is great.
It was great. But let's talk about obviously probably the other big famous one from Nickelodeon. From September of 1992 until December of 95, the final season had a slightly different name, which we'll get to. From the Extreme Arena in Universal, Florida.
So good.
It was Guts, and then in the last season, Global Guts.
Right. Do you have it?
Do you have it? Do you have it?
Hosted by Mike O'Malley, later of Yesteryear Infamy, my least favorite CBS sitcom ever.
I was just proud that Mike O'Malley even got out of Nickelodeon, got an actual sitcom. That was like a crowning achievement.
That's a good point, Quinn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike O'Malley. Welcome to Nickelodeon Guts, the action sports show where kids live out their greatest sports fantasies.
And of course, joining him was the referee.
Yeah, Mo.
Let's go to our referee, Maura Quirk, for the rules. Hey, Quirky.
Hey, Mikey. The object is to spike balls onto our targets. Each player will get 5 serves, and the player who spikes the most targets wins.
Now, Mo, she actually went on to become a voice actress.
Really?
Yeah, she did a lot of
sounds
voice
like
work.
one.
Mike, or whatever.
Yeah, she was very like, when she would read the rules, it was like very like, that's Mo. Like, you knew. Like, and if they didn't have her, if somebody was filling in or something, which I don't know if that happened or not, but all I know is that Mo was like very recognizable on that show.
Very authoritative.
Yeah.
Because she's British,
She's
obviously.
a British woman, and it's like, well, you don't hear this a lot as a kid in America.
No, you
Like,
don't.
Yeah.
And British people, as we know, are very authoritative and have great food choices.
They know way more than we Americans at things.
Oh, especially cuisine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great at that.
Hey, chap, but let me just set my cuppa down. Oh, there we go. It's true. We Brits are certainly more sophisticated. But, mate, did you ever try fish and chips?
So, in Guts, if you've never seen the show, there's 3 players. The colors of the team are blue, red, and purple. Okay?
No parrots.
No parrots or any other animals of any kind. There are 4 events, which are basically extreme sport variations. Again, with the aim of kids having fun, being connected to shit and jumping and like, you know what I mean?
Let's. I want to get into. First of all,
get into it.
The arena was the coolest fucking thing.
Extreme Arena.
Like of all of these shows, the Extreme Arena was easily. I knew the layout of this place. Like, I was like, this is incredible, right?
It really was.
Yeah, like, so you got, first of all, you have, like, stands.
Yes,
like,
there were stands, grandstands.
There was, like, grandstands and, like, supporters of each team on this. Like, it was, like, wild, right? And then there was, like, a running, like, circle thing around it, like a track, right? And some of the games were on there. And then there was like the middle part where they would usually set up some of the other different games, like in the center.
Yep.
But it was also like kind of a football field sort of size thing.
It was pretty big.
And then looming in the background, the Aggro Crag.
The Aggro Crag.
Yes.
Season 1 and 2 was called that, by the way. Season 3 it was the Mega Crag.
Right.
And then in the final
I remember
season,
the upgrade.
The Super Aggro Crag, So there was like, stuff like ski slopes. There was a wave pool. It was like weird basketball variations and stuff.
So I'll say this, as a kid,
yeah,
this is a stupid story,
Please.
but as a kid, I definitely like the basketball where you're hooked to a string and you jump or whatever. I definitely attempted to set that shit up in my house.
That did not work, did it?
There was like a railing.
Oh God,
but we didn't have steps. It was like we had like a recessed, like our living room. There was like a step that went like, it was just one step, and it just kind of was a recessed like 80s style like sitting room.
And what did you do here?
I got a piece of string. And I hooked myself to the railing above, and then I would like jump off the one step and then like shoot a basketball into like a net that I had, and I would like see how many I could get in like I like do a timer just like the show.
Did the string do anything?
No, because they had a bungee cord, but it was the best I could set. How am I going to convince my dad? Hey, I need a bungee cord so I can jump off a step and then like shoot a basketball. Like,
that's the type of story that ends with tonight in New Jersey. A child was critically injured when he attempted to emulate Guts, the Nickelodeon program.
But I was like, because I was like, we like I saw that was the only thing I could figure out how to do in my house. Like, this is like the funny part about these shows is I swear they didn't say do not try this at home.
I don't know. They
Guts
probably did.
Guts especially would act like, no, it's like really healthy and like stuff if you like do these activities. Like,
no, it's perfectly healthy.
Yeah, because it's like they'd also like pretend like this was like jumping off a bungee cord with a basketball, that's absolutely normal.
Yeah, no, every kid does that.
Climbing a fake mountain, everyone does that.
It's true. So the
peak of athletics, Joe.
Clearly, no pun intended. The point system that was in place here was basically out of the three, you'd have a first place winner, a second place, and a third, right? So you get 300, 200, and 100 points respectively. However, in the final event, the crag, right, whether it's aggro or mega,
kind of a catch-up round if you were at the back, right?
It was. And if you put a lot of mustard in that round, sorry for the puns here, but I'm really relishing the opportunity.
Will you Worcestershire stop?
Anyway, you could basically overcome any deficit. So you could be in third place the whole time, but if you win the crag, you win it all.
Even though that's true, I do feel that, usually if you were at the back of the pack, you were never going to win the aggro crag.
No, you were in the back for a reason.
It was usually more of in practice, even though, like you said, they could come back.
Yes.
In practice, it would always really be a competition between first and second place.
Yeah.
Right?
In practice, I guess. Yeah. So the crag is a fake mountain, like Quinn said, and the goal here is climb the shit, but while you do so, there's a couple of parameters. You have to stay in your own section. There's
lanes.
Yes, literally. And if you cross over, they don't like that.
They don't like that. There's also, there's actuators, which essentially are just lights.
It's a button.
But you have to do them in the order. You can't skip from 1 to 3.
You have to do them in order.
You have to do there was a penalty, I believe, because you could win, and if you skipped an actuator or something, they'd be like, okay, you get the points, but you get deducted, and usually it would just screw you over.
Yeah.
Because it was always pretty close between 1 and 2 at the end.
You had to, you're right, Quinn. And also, for the record here, there was all kinds of smog and bullshit falling at
boulders.
You. Yeah, there was boulders, probably foam.
So I gotta say, as a child, this looked incredibly dangerous, right?
As a child, yes.
I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this, right?
You don't have the guts.
This looked so hard,
right?
Which was rare because as a kid you feel invincible, but they really did a good job at making the aggro crag seem like Mount Everest or something, right?
You know what? You're right.
They really did.
Now, and for the record, it was pretty big, 28 feet tall, and then the upgraded one was 30. You raised an interesting point, though, because when I used to watch Guts and Global, which was all that was, it was from all different countries.
Right.
That's
they
literally
mixed,
all it was.
They allowed different, a
the
worldwide
Olympics.
audience. Yeah, it was cool.
It was.
It felt like the next obvious step in this process.
Oh, and the
right?
Guts franchise, yes.
Yeah.
But when I would watch this, I would see these kids, 12, 13, whatever they are, 14, and I'd be like, these kids are athletes. I could do double dare.
Right.
I could do wild and crazy kids.
Right. But that aggro crag,
I'm never going to be at that kind of peak performance.
Now, I felt like I could do, for example, when they had that bike thing, that 3-wheel, I was I could probably handle that.
Or the basketball on a string.
Basketball on a string. I did it. It was easy.
But the crag was the most astonishing visual aspect of this show.
It felt almost unreal. The fact that the kids were tethered for their safety.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, man, what if he fell off or something?
Right.
This felt like a real, serious thing.
It really did. I mean, you don't want to fall off a 28-foot thing.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Right. Especially if you're a kid.
Yeah. These days, kids have activity places where they go to where it's, you climb really tall things. There's jumping places. And
even those don't look as dangerous as this thing.
Well, they don't. But again, we're adults now, so maybe as kids.
They don't shoot glitter in your face and throw boulders at you either, on these things.
I love that the obstacles on the crag are just annoyances.
Yeah, but see,
glitter or get out of here.
So the reason why I feel they have to be, right? This is what, I guess this was my kid brain, how it would work, is because I was always if you fell, you would die. And I was so wow, this is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Throwing glitter in somebody's face when they're climbing a mountain, well, it's funny that it's just glitter. That's kind of a hindrance. I can't see.
Well, that's true. That's blood sport when he gets a thing in his eyes.
Right.
I think throwing glitter in anyone's face ever is kind of a mean thing to do.
Right.
How do you get that off?
But when you're climbing a mountain, that you fall
especially,
off,
don't throw any glitter in my face while I'm climbing a mountain.
Imagine somebody's on Everest, they're about to hit the peak, and someone just throws glitter in their face, and it's no.
The prize for winning the crag, or winning in general, was a glowing piece of the crag.
Of our radical rock.
Of our radical rock.
Yes.
As good old Mike O'Malley would put it.
The way they did this, right?
Say it.
When I was a kid, I thought that this crag was like real or something.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, like we carved out a piece and like gave it to the kids and like, hey, this is like radioactive or something. It glows, like it just has a light in it, but like it's just like this was like very weird to me. Like I was like, wait a sec, like did they ever run out of crag? Like how is it cut perfectly?
Oh, they never. That's when they cut up the original crag to make all these, and that's why they had to upgrade. It's probably made out of fucking acrylic, polypropylene or some shit.
It's another hunk of plastic.
This whole presentation, it made climbing the crag feel like such an achievement.
Oh, like winning the Olympics, like getting a gold medal.
Like I was like, man, if I could get on this show and win the aggro crag thing and show that at school, I'd be like the coolest kid ever.
You would take your crag to school?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you betcha.
Wouldn't they frown upon that? The teachers and
show and tell, Joe. It's there for a reason.
In third grade.
Remember when I won guts?
Yeah, you would still talk about that to this day, wouldn't you, Quinn?
Yeah, remember? I would. That would be like
on your resume.
Oh yeah, I would definitely put that on my resume.
Guts winner, 1994.
Yeah,
folks, if you have ever been on Guts, if you've ever gotten yourself a piece of the crag in the aftermarket, the hot crag aftermarket.
You know what I hate is that's probably true.
I'm sure
There's
it's
probably
true.
people who sold their aggro crags.
Good. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's a piece of plastic.
Yeah, but it's important, Joe. It's an accomplishment.
I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
You have to climb the crag, Joe.
With glitter and foam boulders and
you
shit.
Could die.
It's very tough out there. It also had a video game. That's how popular this was. It did have a Super Nintendo game.
It really
Double Dare did as well. Had games.
Yeah, it was just. I think Guts, out of all of them, had the most like. It felt like it was a real thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like an actual thing.
It was the most legitimate competition out of the 6 that we've mentioned.
Absolutely,
It really was. They didn't waste your time with trivia.
Yeah.
And
it was like, no, it was like, you just have to be good at sports.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you bet, and all of them.
There's a referee in a shirt, like a ref shirt.
Mo is there.
Yeah.
There's bikes. There's all the basketball and crags, and it's just crazy, Joe.
It was crazy. So I think a lot of people finally remember Guts. We're going to just run down a couple honorable mentions here. As I disclaimed, and will do one more time, this is not every game show. These are ones that Quinn and I personally watched and really liked. That's why we talked about 6 in particular. Because why talk about things in detail if we don't know about it? There was one called Mike O'Malley. Called Get the Picture. This was before Guts, March to December of 91.
This was like short-lived. I remember it, but...
All within a year, yeah. Where you had to guess a hidden picture made up from smaller screens, like monitors and stuff like that.
It was whatever.
Don't worry, Mike O'Malley would go on to greater things. And yes, dear. Finders Keepers from 87 to 88, which was about finding hidden objects. It was a kids' game show. However, there was the Nickelodeon All-Star Challenge, which was a special that ran for 3 episodes in October of 94. This is kind of like the battle of the network stars. Yeah,
this is the Nickelodeon version.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one. And then for me, because I did, because we all age, right, as kids, and we grow into adolescence and beyond, I did stop watching Nickelodeon with any regularity in the mid-late 90s. And
I'm always it's hard for me to pinpoint if it was like 97 or 98
for
or
me,
something
it was
like
around
that.
Then,
yeah.
Like 12, 13.
I can always mark it by like I feel like when they announced Angry Beavers, I'm like, I'm out. Or like one of those shows.
Right.
It's like, okay, we're done here.
We stayed around long enough for all that. You know what I mean? Like, we definitely did. And Keenan and Kel
like Amanda
starting.
Bynes was around. And like that was like starting to like take over when I phased out.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what I do remember, the tail end, and this show ran from 97 to 99, was the Summer Sanders hosted Figure It Out.
Now, I love this because as a old-timer Nickelodeon fan, the concept that like Little Pete was on it and like all these like people from like other Nickelodeon shows that I watched like years ago was like, this is awesome. Yeah. Like I really like this.
And this was a throwback to those old shows, like What's My Line and I've Got a Secret, like panel style where you had to figure something out.
Celebrity Panel.
Called that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it was Celebrity Panel, just Nickelodeon edition.
Yep. And that was it. I know there were more game shows. That's as far as 90s though, like my era. But what's interesting is how the legacy was quickly embraced. By 1999 and until 2009, there was a completely separate channel known as Nickelodeon Gas Games and Sports.
Up next, it's that giant talking stonehead. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
as a teenager, when
this
I
was an amazing find as a kid. I was like, I cannot believe they just like archived all this and it's just like always replaying. I was like, this is incredible.
Because I had no interest in anything new Nickelodeon related by, the late 90s, early 2000s. And they have long since stopped running, Guts and,
all that was gone,
Wild and Crazy Kids and all those shows.
It became, like Nickelodeon became like basically like teenager shows at night and like weird cartoons all day that like were not even the like classic ones anymore.
Exactly. I mean, we talked a lot about what happened with Snick in the same vein in the late 90s, right? And it happened in the game shows too, but Nickelodeon Gas was like a revelation to me when I first found that channel in my late teens.
Yeah,
whenever.
I found it in like, I want to say I was like in high school or something.
I think so too.
It came with some like cable package when we moved to some place like where we got it for like free for like a year or something like that. And I was like, I'm not kidding. I would like constantly just keep it on. I was just like, I can't even, like, it was just so cool to have access to these shows that were like, you thought they were like long forgotten, right?
Right, exactly. It was cool as an early example of like 90s nostalgia. Like this network started in 1999,
right?
And they already knew they had a market for this.
They had the kids that grew up on this and that they thought they would never see these shows ever again.
Exactly.
Right?
I was one of them. I loved it.
I really thought that it was like lost media like before this channel existed. I thought like, oh, I'm never going to see an episode of Double Dare ever again.
Right. Or what would you do or whatever, right? So these game shows obviously made an impression on kids of our generation, and again, a little older, a little younger, I'm sure. And what's funny is because they're, overall these are disposable, generally empty calories. These Nickelodeon,
they are, but at the same time, the thing with kid shows is that kids are impressionable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you regularly show a kid the same kind of shows for their entire childhood,
right?
That's because they kept going, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This era basically could encompass an entire kid's childhood, like you and me, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Because it did.
Yeah.
These were like memories that just never went away. You knew every detail about Double Dare and Guts and all these shows, right?
And Legends of the Hidden Temple, all of it, yeah.
Like you to this day, you remember aspects of the temple. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the
like,
crag.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, and that's why this Gas channel worked partially, is just because you had left such an impression on a certain group of children that it was like, they're never going to forget these shows. They're never going to not love them. Like, you could pick up these shows, put them all on YouTube when this group of people is like 50 years old, and they'd be like, oh my God, I remember that.
I remember watching that 40 years ago. Yeah,
right, exactly. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they do that. Like, as the years go by, like they'll have anniversaries, 40th anniversary of Double Dare or something. You know what I mean? Like,
as they well should.
And then because the kids that watch that are never going to forget it.
Honestly, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It really is, Quinn, because these game shows, we talked about how Nickelodeon struggled its first few years. These game shows, particularly Double Dare, but all of the ones we mentioned, were integral in the recipe of what Nickelodeon was. And I say was in the past tense. I really do, unfortunately. But what it was in the 90s.
Yes.
What it was to our generation. And again, a little of the generation before us and after. But mainly our generation. It gave Nickelodeon an identity.
It's the kind of nostalgia, too, that has universal appeal, whether you grew up to be a Wall Street banker or somebody who talks about old shit on a podcast.
Which ones do you think we are?
No, but the point is like, I feel like male, female, no matter what your profession is,
mailman,
at some point, if you were a kid in the late 80s and early 90s and you watch this, you will never forget it. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if now you're 60 years old and you saw this and you'd be like, oh my God, I remember that. Like, it's just that it was that impressionable is my point. And it's beyond, it goes beyond, it's some of the most mainstream nostalgia you can think of. Not just like wrestling where it's like a very particular nostalgia.
Very niche.
Yeah, exactly. But these Nick game shows are definitely some of the most mainstream nostalgia I can think of.
I think that's very eloquently said, Quinn. These game shows were fun, memorable, kind of goofy, silly, stupid, but most of all, Quinn, I think we can both agree that they certainly are Acid Washed Memories.
Absolutely.
Folks, thank you so much for being with us here for this fun little reminiscence through some classic Nickelodeon game shows. We want to hear about your favorites. Again, we know we didn't cover every single one. That was the idea, but we covered the ones that mean the most to us and that we remembered the most from the 90s. So let us know your memories. Let us know if you've got a piece of the crag. Let us know if you're friends with Donnie Jeffcoat, you know?
Let us know if you know how to put that like monkey thing together.
Yeah, the thing together in the temple, folks. Let us know all that on Twitter at AWM Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook group and leave us a review on your podcast application of choice. But I'll tell you what, next week we're coming back for something completely different. Until that time, I am Joe Murata. That is Michael Quinn. We'll see you next week for more Acid Wash Memories.
See ya.
Like what you heard? Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will see you next week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number...
Still laughing about that?
Yeah.